This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we'll call the Monterey Select Board to order on July 7th at 6 p.m. And Bachelor Susan Cooper and myself, Justin Maycock, are all present here in Town Hall. And I'd like to begin the meeting just recognizing Barbara Swan's service to the town, especially as town clerk. She just passed recently and was a positive influence in town hall for many, many years and at town meetings.
Historical Commission, a lot of ways.
So it'd be so boring without her.
So, the first item of business on tonight's agenda is a joint meeting with the Finance Committee, which I assume will be fairly brief. The Finance Committee is already meeting here. The full Finance Committee's here in Town Hall. Just to go over any last reserve fund transfers on the year. So I think Finance Committee already went ahead and approved them.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We can go over those.
It's our money, we get to spend. It's the
Um,
only thing we get to spend.
So I can talk about.
Yeah,
those.
let's just do a little debrief,
Yeah.
that way we know when we're budgeting next year, what fell short and why, and if we can prevent it from happening.
Want me to talk?
I can just, talk to you, right? If you want to, it's up to you. You want
Go
to?
ahead.
You sure?
I wouldn't feel slack.
So there was one for $295, which was the town report printing, because we budgeted 1,200 and it came to 1,495. So that was where that one came from.
Was that something other than the town report? Was it one 1495 invoice?
Yeah, one 1,495 invoice.
Cause I told them to print enough
There-
that would make it 1,200.
There was a $1,200 invoice for a report printing. This was 1,495, yeah. That was from, that wasn't the, yeah, it was for the report printing.
Okay, I'll follow.
Yep.
I'll check in on that, cause I said,
'Cause that's
they
what-
said,
that's
how
what the
many
invoice was.
reports do you want printed? Cause we printed like 100 last year.
Yeah,
And we had one left over, and so I said, why don't you print enough so that they're 1,200?
that was from
The Sterling?
Sterling Printing, yeah.
The one we just paid?
Go back and look at
I
it.
mean, it's a couple $100, but that's just,
Yeah. And then there was another one for, there was one for $700, which was for the, which actually was for the Board of Selectmen, because that covered when we did the quick print for the last warrant.
Yeah.
It kind of brought it, what it's not gonna be, it wasn't too far off, but.
You're welcome.
But we had to cover that one for $700.
we had 3 special town, we had
Yeah.
2 special town meetings because of the fire truck and other special.
Yeah, that one too, yeah. Then there was,
And the pool,
Yeah.
which was in last fiscal year.
It was, yeah, because it was before.
Did we have 4 town meetings in one fiscal year?
yeah, we had the one in June, yeah, I think we did actually.
Wow,
I
that's
think we did. Yeah, 'cause we had one in June, we had the one in June and one in November, right? We had the annual and then that one, yeah, so 4.
Wow.
Yeah, yep. And then there was one for $30, which was really just for the Conservation Commission, because they had done a mailing where they were sending out a flyer to inform people about about the Conservation Commission. When you talk to the Conservation Commission, it ended up, that brought them down to just shy, like a little below their budget. So that $30 would be like $2 left in their account. Then we had one that was for the Medicare, because we had, I didn't really, to be quite honest, I didn't know how to, what the
No one
percentage
was on
was
it.
for Medicare. And so we had just rolled the $18,500 from the previous fiscal year, and it's coming up short. It's actually a percentage, 1.45% of the payroll. And so that is just coming short, so that was for $4,400. And the other one was unemployment, which we totally missed. We had $1,000 appropriated for it, And that again is a percentage of the budget, of the payroll budget, 1.7%, but that actually changes every year. You have to ask the state what our percentage is. And so they tell us based upon what our unemployment we paid out on unemployment.
No,
That was $22,400. So like right now it's short $20,452.39. So no. And so
Well, that one was unpredictable because we had two claims.
yeah. And that kind of, because we weren't paying it
from like nothing to a lot.
And so that was the reserve
That's it?
fund transfer. So that leaves, right now it leaves $2,175 in the reserve fund transfers. And as I was explaining earlier, because my administrative assistant left, there was a stack of invoices that didn't get processed in time to be in the previous accounts payable. So I'm trying to collect everything and make sure that I have enough monies in all the accounts. So I have a spreadsheet that I'm trying to keep track of things. So I just wanted to make sure that if something came up odd, that there was enough money left in the reserve fund transfer to cover something if need be.
And when's the last day we can make them?
The 15th.
Okay.
So if you guys would agree to just sort of schedule a meeting for next week, it may just be one for them as a reserve fund transfer versus one of the appropriations requests. So just because I'm just not 100% certain that we'll end up with enough money left over at the end. If some odd stray invoice comes in at the end of in the next week, that was FY26.
Better to schedule a meeting and not need it than vice versa.
Yeah, it's not that there's not gonna be enough money, because you're.
Yeah, we have
Our budget,
but yeah,
total,
yeah,
there are a bunch of line items that are gonna be in trouble.
it's possible. And I just wanted to make certain
Count
that,
them off.
So that's what that is. So that was the reserve fund transfers.
I do have one thing, which is that the town report printing was 1,200.
I'll have to go.
So I don't know what that
I'll have
is.
to look
I
at
don't
that
know
budget
if there was a
afterwards.
warrant printing mixed in, but the town report was 1,200 even.
Yeah, I'll go look and see what that invoice was for. But it was paid against the
Town report account.
town report account.
So there might need to be a reclass.
I wonder if that was the printing for one of the warrants.
I'd have to double check and see.
It's the only, because we only print one town report a year.
Yeah.
So it can't be town report. The question is, what else did we have printed that would have been?
Yeah, I'll check
Well,
and see.
also it could get busy because we have other things from Sterling, right, like the dump stickers.
Yeah, we have dump stickers from Sterling,
Mm.
there's a couple of.
Kayak
things.
stickers.
Kayak, so I have to go and look and see. It's possible it could have been applied to that. Yeah, and the next things are the transfer of appropriations, which require both the select board and the finance committee. Mark Maka, the librarian, was in. He is, during the meeting, he had asked to transfer $1,990 from their payroll account, because they have some monies left over in that, into their expense account so they can pay money out of the expenses. The finance committee has already signed that one, and so that's that.
This isn't gonna affect my father's pay. Nikki,
Pardon?
this isn't gonna affect my father's pay.
No.
Okay.
No.
I didn't think so.
Right, hello.
And the last, this last one I have here is significant. It's, has to do with the transfer station. And, because there was such an increase in the, there was a pretty substantial increase in what we were being charged for recycling from FY25 to FY26. And no one really, we weren't notified of it. We're paying close to $10,000 for our recycling, sending out to Springfield, where the previous year, close to $3,400. So it was a significant increase. plus just the regular year-over-year increases. And we did do some, we did a little bit more in like electronics, sending out things for electronics, and mattresses. We sent out more did more mattress recycling. A few other line items, just the cost of hauling was a little bit more. So we ended up that right now that account specifically and that line item is $15,000 short. So I'm looking to transfer money from the DPW road maintenance, which has significant funds left in it, to transfer over to the transfer station hauling line item. So
Total amount was what, the
it was 15,000 even. Yeah.
15,000 even?
Yeah. I'm pretty certain we have all I was working on that today with all the invoices for Roger Trucking. We have all those, and also all from the from Springfield from Waste Management. So I'm again hoping that nothing odd comes in for that, like a loose,
Surprise, here's an extra.
mount toilet, the porta potty invoice all of a sudden shows up out of the blue. So
Can we sign this if there's no amount on others?
there's a
Okay.
15,000.
Where's it even?
Well, it's like $14,765, so.
Okay.
It's what it is, so in reality.
This is highway maintenance, there's nothing to do with the salt, sand.
No, that budget ended up having about $5,000 left in it.
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's snow we have.
Yeah, there was a lot of overtime this year that went, so. Yeah, it wouldn't, the past couple of years, we've had much more than that.
Do you know what we did, Steve? I forget, you were probably involved. There was the account to pay for the salt and sand, and the account to pay for the winter overtime, but they both can be legally overspent. And one year we ran short on one, but had money left in others, so we put it all together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember when the select board had to do a snow emergency.
Yeah.
And because they literally did not have enough money in the budget, they have to notify the
Yeah.
state, and then you have to add it on a special town meeting from free cash and all that.
And it shows up on the tax recap. I think it's easier just to not run over.
Plus, you never, so, well, obviously, we're pretty damn close.
Yeah.
There always one snow more, snow stuff away.
It's the budget total is $172,500. That's what it is. Yeah. And that's a combination of the two. And that's it.
Okay, if you're all set, we'll tentatively plan on a meeting next Tuesday at the same time, 5:30 to 6.
Yeah, we won't have to separate finance committee.
I don't think so. I mean, it may, if the only thing there is reserve fund transfers, then
So
that's
if you
just.
do need it, you have enough time to let us know, he wants to come 15 minutes early or something
Yeah,
like that.
I'll be in touch, yeah.
Okay. So next meeting will be on the 14th, but
Before 14.
so anybody want to move to adjourn the finance committee? I move we adjourn the finance committee. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so there. Well done. The wheels of justice work well.
Newbies can move to adjourn. It's okay.
Okay.
We'll do MVP. Tree Warden will move up right after MVP. He gets a good thought. Yeah. We'll do an order of distance traveled. And have him probably get back home in 9 days.
Yeah, really. Come up.
Yeah, Emma.
I'm popping you up on the agenda.
And Dennis, if you wanna come up too, we're gonna talk about MVP. So, Ken, you probably were involved in MVP 1.0.
I'm lucky to.
Yes, I was.
So it's 10 years ago.
Wow. Still going strong.
Well, still going.
So the town applied for and received the MVP 2.0 grant. And it's at least a two-step process, as I understand it. 1 year of planning and meetings, kind of like MVP 1.0, but not exactly the same. And then the second year, I believe there's $50,000 of seed money. The town administrator and the select board had some reasons to be hesitant of getting back into the MVP program because the culvert that in the center of town that so much good work has been done on is too expensive to construct at this time. And so I think, this is just my opinion, I think if we're going to get back involved with it, we should bite off a project that we can chew. Because a lot of really good work went into the culvert from Dennis, from MVP, from the engineers, and it ended up being very, very expensive, and we're not doing that.
What was the latest estimate? 1.8 million, which the town would have to probably do.
3.8
3.8,
after phase two.
right.
And that.
Of which, how much?
4.8.
Yeah. Mhm.
Of which, how much was, and how much was the town's portion?
I think it was 40%.
Well, it would they capped that program, I believe, at $3 million.
Yeah,
So anything in excess of 3 million would have just been our responsibility, in addition to the match within the 3 million. So all that said, Emma kindly joined us. You're the coordinator for the
Yeah.
MVP
the
program.
regional, yeah, so Berkshire's and Hilltown's coordinator. So it's a statewide program, but we have folks across the state.
Uh-huh. So to answer any questions that we have and see if we want to jump back into the MVP program, and if so, if there's any particular ways in which we want to move forward.
Can you just give sort of like a brief, high level, like what the responsibilities are for you, for the town, what we would have to provide in moving forward?
Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, so MVP 2.0 is, because some of the plans and the first communities to go through the MVP prioritization process and make the plans, like you said, it's almost 10 years old now. And so we're asking communities with the oldest plans to take another look at their priorities. And it's based on the 2.0 process. This new planning process is based on a lot of feedback we got from that first round. So, I mean, it's trying to take a look at the priorities with, taking into account all the good work that's been done. A lot of things have changed in the last 10 years. There may be new priorities that have come up. Maybe some work has been done or certain things have gotten checked off. And also we got a lot of feedback that there was interest in extra support for things like community engagement and equitable, increasing the importance of kind of social resilience and equity. We saw a lot of, environmental and infrastructure concerns, which are still very important and still very key to MVP. But the kind of new look at the priorities is trying to just have a more holistic view of climate resilience. And so, yeah, thank you, Justin, that it's kind of a 2 phases. It's a 2-year process. For towns that have the oldest plans, it is a requirement to go through the 2.0 process to stay eligible for MVP action grants. So all that amazing work with Culvert and the other, the projects had a lot of different arms. So that was an action grant, and it is a competitive process. But in order to stay eligible for action grants, Monterey is up to do 2.0. So it's a 2-year process, and you are eligible to apply for action grants while you're going through 2.0. The first year is this planning, and it looks a little bit different than the first time around. Sorry, I'm getting more in the weeds. You asked for high level.
Well, I think,
Take a step back.
I am interested in, what the planning process, the core team, were you part of the core team?
Well, the question I would have is what happens with this if we want to move beyond this to something else?
To something else, like a different project in town. I think that's partly
possible?
what, yes, absolutely, that's partly what looking at the priorities again would help facilitate, just to see what other projects in town there's momentum behind that feel urgent, that feel like they, you know, are priority. And I think that culvert is still a priority for the town, and that I wouldn't expect that to go away in the new
No.
planning process. And so I think as other funding mechanisms from the state are available or other funding sources, I think that remains a priority, even if it might not be feasible for it to just be funded by MVP in the town. Not that I can't predict that, but I think that's.
So we wouldn't get penalized for
No, oh my
leaving
gosh.
this one behind.
I honestly think that Monterey has a great track record of not just like MVP work, but also the outreach, the engagement, the kind of multifaceted projects. I think that's all really strong for the town. So the core team is a little bit different than the last time. Core teams are different sizes. We say roughly 10 people, half municipal folks and half community liaisons. So the municipal folk can be staff, can be board members, can be volunteers who are just well-versed in town dynamics. And then we also have community liaisons who are stipended for being on the committee to bring different lived experience to the committee or the core team. And so that's the core team. So they look at the priorities, do some outreach in the town. And that can look like a lot of different things. Some towns do a whole bunch of different things. It's really intense, and some towns keep it, you know, more consolidated and do a few different things, or, you know, basically just trying to reach some other people, get some other voices, and then update the priorities. You don't come out with a whole new plan. You have a plan. We heard that people were planned out, but to have an updated list of priorities is sort of the outcome, as well as this kind of capacity building, a new core team, more people involved. Ways to reach different sections of the community. And then from that new priority list, like Justin said, there's a seed project. So the year 2 is a $50,000 kind of bite of bite of one or more of the priorities.
And we would determine the priorities?
Yes, the town determines, the core team in conversation with the community determines the priorities.
Could I ask about a couple of hypothetical
Sure.
projects to see if they might at all be eligible for the seed money and or action grants? So
Yeah.
one would be, I'm not saying we would have to do these, but just to get a sense, the dam at Lake Garfield is slightly leaky. And it's not an urgent priority because we basically can't get it to entirely close, but we rarely ever want to do that anyway. But it'd be better if it worked like it's supposed to. Would that be, I don't want to hold you to it, but is that the type of thing that?
That might be a tricky sell for both the seed project and the action grant. Dam maintenance is kind of hard to argue for climate resilience. I think Lake Garfield is a real asset for the town, and there's cooling resources and community connection there. But I think the actual active dam maintenance is hard, because you're just gonna have to do it again in a couple days.
Yeah, I mean, I think the argument that would be made is if there's a storm approaching, or an extreme weather event, we can better prepare for it by having a dam that works as
You'd
it's supposed
actually
to.
use the water that comes in under this thing.
Yeah,
And
It's the reason why we're gonna do the culvert.
exactly.
yeah. So I think dam maintenance is not a no-go for MVP. I don't know if we have examples of having funded. I guess is what I'll say.
Can I expand on that just a little?
Yeah.
It's the culvert that runs from the lake to the dam lake is also in need of repair. And I'm wondering if that would be part of it too.
The one between
Underneath
the big lake and Brewer
yeah.
Pond.
Yeah.
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 Okay, you buy the town beach.
Yeah, by the town beach.
So I think those are potential. There are definitely a lot of examples of culvert work, including in Monterey. The design and planning process at least. I think something with the new priorities, even if a lot are similar to the initial plan, we've been encouraging folks to hold off on choosing a seed project or having a seed project in your mind, because we have been kind of surprised by some of the emergent ideas that have come from, a little bit of additional outreach or some different voices. So,
Like what?
What
I'm
about
just like,
housing?
yeah.
What about housing?
yeah.
How does housing qualify?
It does. I think in certain ways, and so it's like there's St. Hadley has use their seed money to, or their seed project funds to develop an affordable housing trust. So thinking about how do you sustainably create a system to support affordable housing
They're
in a
double
town.
dipping, they're double dipping.
I'm not getting, I can't
The
speak to that.
state provides funds for that.
So it
already.
could,
That's
so
great.
housing could be an option. And then last, kind of what about constructing a park for recreation as a social
possibility.
center?
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, also there are other state programs for that, so I'd be happy to connect you with, with the park program. But also, I think that's an idea for a seed project, if there's a way that, especially if it can be tied to, thinking about the climate hazards that Monterey is facing, is there a way to make it, I think the social piece of having a gathering place is really important, but like up in Clarksburg, they're working on, their town field is also flooding in a way that it didn't flood 50 years ago. And so that is their town center, their gathering place, and they can't use it a lot of the year. So that kind of thing of like, how do we make this usable for the future going forward? How do we, MVP gets really excited about nature-based solutions, so is there extra,
So this is really expanded.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely, there's a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
I mean, other seed project ideas, we've seen communication come up as an issue in a lot of towns, so thinking about how do towns reach, like how does the municipal government reach people, how do people reach each other? What does kind of neighborhood networking look like? So that looks like all sorts of things, from like updating the old sign out in front of town hall in Goshen to like thinking about their website and listservs. And in Conway and Ashfield, they're thinking about like neighborhood captains and trying to like build coordination just locally, like at the hyper local neighborhood network. So those are,
So you're sort of
there's a lot
seeing,
of different
yeah,
directions.
you're sort of like, in the western part of the state, are you see more with this new MVP2 smaller projects as opposed to the $3.8 million culvert out in the road with the
That's-
2.0?
That's a really interesting question. So these are the seed projects, which is just the $50,000. We are still seeing action grants that are the whole range, from, small scale towns doing more of the like $50,000 to $100,000 projects, all the way to infrastructure projects, which are the biggest price tag usually.
And I presume, I know that there's other monies available for this as well, but the first thing that jumps into my mind is the sheer number of family colors. Like, it's not just this big one, which is working just fine, we're worried about a big weather event, but there's plenty of them that are a lot closer to failure than that.
Yeah.
But that would be a lot of different colors rather than one big one.
Yeah.
Is that,
I mean, I think we've seen a lot of like culvert inventories. I don't know if Monterey has, good enough data on enough culverts that might not be a priority. But that is a place that a lot of towns start.
right,
And then I think one of the best ways that I've seen that kind of work leveraged is if a town has their priorities, knows which culverts are urgently failing or imminently failing, then trying to connect to other funding resources. So like MassDOT's community culvert program, if you know which culvert you want to go for, or which couple culverts maybe, like that could be a good direction. So if MVP can help you like figure out those priorities and like get geared up, maybe there's bigger parts of like culvert infrastructure funding.
Is there a match that the town has to the initial grant?
For MVP 2.0, no.
But for an action grant, yes.
Go beyond that?
It depends. The last 2 years, the match has been waived for small and rural towns.
Right.
So it's been 0%. Otherwise, it would be 10% for larger cities. I think that's something that has been a priority is trying to support small and rural towns. And so I can't speak to if that will continue going forward, but we have 2 years of that.
Is there a max award on the action grant?
3 million for one community, one town, and then 5 million for multiple towns working together.
So if theoretically this was 3.8 million and we applied an action grant and they waived our local match, we would be responsible for 800,000 at this point, if theoretically, hypothetical.
Yeah, if that was awarded.
And we awarded.
Yeah, it's hard, it's a competitive grant, so I can't that's
Yeah.
not guaranteed, but I think that in that hypothetical, yeah, if the match was waived, it would just be like reserve of the max.
So what are the next steps if we want to participate? Is it designating a core team?
Yeah, so the first thing, think when we had talked, there was, hiring a planning vendor and having a municipal point person are kind of the two pieces to start.
Mhm.
So I think that, I know that Dennis worked on the application, I think Roger's been the person that a lot of the, communications are going to. I don't know who the best person is for this. That's like that's a you guys decision. So happy to talk more about like that person's role. So there's that piece. Hiring a planning vendor is an outside consultant who would do a lot of the administrative burden, be facilitating, be calling meetings, kind of helping this move forward.
Berkshire Regional Planning involved in this?
They are currently working in the northwest corner of the
Of
state.
course. they-
So I think that their name came up as a possibility, if that is, I think you would need to do an RFP if you were working with them, so if that is the direction the town wants to go, and I think that's a way to hit the ground running. The other option is to do an RFP or hire a vendor through a,
State contract.
thank you, or not, I don't think state contract, but
Okay.
it
Do you have a
would
vendor
be,
list?
yes, well, we have a list of people who are interested, it's still up to the communities to
Oh, not
vet.
approved?
Not approved, unlike the first time around,
Okay.
because it's a much,
Smaller.
yeah, it's a slightly different skill set, so instead of like engineering firms, we're seeing a lot more like facilitation experts, folks who understand like how to run
Interesting.
meetings and deal, do community outreach and have planning processes.
So it could be somebody, a community-based person.
Yeah, I think it should be someone with certain expertise.
Sure.
We have a lot of resources on the website for the criteria for the planning vendor, draft RFPs, that kind of thing. That process often takes several months, so I think if that's the route the town is gonna go, we should just definitely make sure to start moving, and knowing that there's a bit shorter of a
And
timeline.
is there a timeline?
Yeah, so the first phase,
August 1st.
oh my God. The first phase would be done by June 30th of 2027.
Oh,
So it's a fiscal year,
and the first phase would be putting the group together and,
getting the group together, and there's certain kind of specific steps of like how to, there's certain, have a meeting to introduce the group, and then there's some, trainings that are built in, and then to do the outreach, revisit the priorities, and then come up with the seed project, and kind of like going back and forth with the community through this process. So that's the first year, and then going into the seed project, starting, like that seed project idea is basically due by June 30th.
and we're not committed to going beyond that. If we decide that we don't want to go beyond that, there's no penalty or anything.
No, there's no penalty. I think we haven't seen any towns turn down the seed project funding.
No, I'm thinking beyond the seed.
Oh,
Once
no,
once you
there's-
get your project,
No, and honestly, the seed project is part of this 2.0 process because we heard a lot of towns were struggling to get from the planning into action. And so I think that's where Monterey has 2 action grants under your belt that like you have already done the other kinds of work. And so, moving through the 2.0 process, you're not in any way committed to do an action grant or apply for an action grant. It just is available as a.
Could the seed project be an action grant?
Can you say more?
So if this is a 23-month process,
Yeah.
thereabouts?
Yeah.
So if the first 12 months, the plan was developed,
Mhm.
and there were additional projects identified in that plan, for example, additional culverts.
Mhm.
Could that seed section of the grant, of the whole process include an action grant that's specific? Or does the seed project have to be something different than has been done before?
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding your question right, the seed project can be basically anything that would be eligible as an action grant could be a seed project. It's, based on those new priorities, so it would have to address one of
It
was
would have to be in the plan that
Yes,
was
it would
just
have to be in the new
created, updated.
priorities, that is still a priority for the town, and if the seed project addresses that, and there's no like red flags from our end,
Sure.
that's good to go. The difference between the seed project and the action grant is it's 50,000 guaranteed, like as long as there's no red flags when we sign off on the idea, you get $50,000, it's not competitive in the same way that action grants are.
So just to flesh that out, if, let's say we did the priorities, and the example you used was we prioritized the culverts. And we estimated that fixing, enter number here, 3, I just made it up, because it's probably too high. Yeah, the three worst ones would cost 50K, we could make the seed project starting fixing existing failing culverts and use that money for that.
Yeah, there's no, because you worked on a culvert with MVP action grant funding, you can't not work on it doesn't tie your hands in any way for working on culverts.
And could the actual plan, that 12-month, be compressed?
It'll have to be, because they're starting a little bit, I don't know if this is context, I was on leave, on parental leave, so this is partly, I'm like, congrats, thank you. But I was out for the spring, so, I think these questions, I'm sorry, I wasn't here to answer them sooner.
No, it's not your fault.
So I think it could be compressed in that it's still just, you would need to have the priorities done in the seed project maybe by June.
Well, I don't think, I think we'll probably use the RPC if we do it, so that saves a bunch of time.
Yeah.
And, what town designees, I think it's kind of natural, the town administrator position, but are you seeing other towns do anything creative, as terms of who is the town designee?
Especially 5 municipal people, like,
I-
what's
Well,
it under that?
The 5, but also just a point person.
Yeah, definitely some creativity there, and I've seen a whole range of core team sizes, and so depending on, people wear so many hats in small communities that, like, if it's a 6-person or an 8-person, or, the real hope with splitting out the municipal folks from the community liaisons is just that in the first MVP plans, it was almost entirely municipal folks, and it was fire and police and emergency and, all super important people. And I think some of the missing voices were those community members and that lived experience. So I think trying to balance that, so if it's an 8-person core team, that, like, at least half of the people maybe aren't also on all the boards and committees or working for the town. And then in terms of the point people, in Goshen, it's a select board member. In Windsor, the town administrator was involved, but their, like, main person communicated with and who kind of, like, kept the show rolling was actually a community liaison. So she was stipended to do this work, and she had a little bit more bandwidth. So she kind of worked with the town administrator to move it forward.
What kind of stipend, does the town pay the stipend?
That comes out of the grant money. So it's $50,000 for that first year. Part of that goes to the planning vendor. We have a budget breakdown that's a whole bunch of materials that I find sometimes overwhelming, so I'm always happy to, like, point you to the right thing if that's helpful. There's a template budget. So part of that goes to the planning vendor. Part of that goes to the stipends for community liaisons. And that can be, again, in small towns, if people are wearing multiple hats, if someone's, like, on a board or committee, but a stipend would help them show up to this and they're not being paid by the town for that time, it can also be stipended. So yes, all that, like, the town should.
Really too open for the state. It sounds too.
So we could put it as another hat, town administrator who has a wall full of hats. Or potentially find a community member willing to kind of spearhead it in conjunction with the town administrator, or maybe a town employee.
Yeah, I think depending on, I would say that the biggest piece is just some interest in this work, and so, and bandwidth.
And knowledge
That
of
it is,
municipal
it is a
stuff.
few hours a week, depending on the time of year and the part of the process that the town is in. It's more or less of a time commitment, but, yeah, I think just recognizing that, like, the bandwidth is a thing that could be
And
important.
you said earlier that you thought that the chair of the select board should be the key person on that. Right?
That just happens to be what Goshen did. I have no recollection.
I already select for member.
Yeah,
and you're
right,
select board chair.
I know. I'm just getting ahead of the game here.
Okay, well, I think it's a good thing to do.
I think especially if we can find a point person for it, it seems like it makes sense and.
This sounds wonderful. Really, really,
Just a
it's
question,
much
yeah.
too open though, I'm just worried about.
Yeah, wow.
Well, and part of it being open is, like, that's part of my job is to be in touch about it, so, like, if there's a direction that's like, actually, that's not quite what we think about with climate resilience,
Yeah, okay.
if folks wanna build a,
Sounds good.
What do you think, Nikki, you wanna spearhead it?
No.
Well, thank you. I think we'll probably be in touch. We'll probably use the RPC.
Yep.
And, for now, you can contact Roger, me.
Okay, maybe I'll start copying both of you on emails and
Yeah,
let me know when there's
perfect.
somebody else. I guess one other piece, because the funding is upfronted, that $50,000 for the first year, we just need to make sure it goes out to the town. And Roger did all the things he was supposed to do, and somebody on my team pressed the wrong button, and so we were wondering if you could resubmit I can send it to you.
Yeah.
If you could resubmit it, and then we can get the town the 50,000 to do the work this year. And then one other person I should mention is Caitlin Markey. We're calling her an equity partner. She's someone who's hired and paid by the state, so not even out of the grant money, but another support person for this project. So especially as you're kind of building up the core team, she's a resource to help facilitate some parts of the process, thinking about who's in your town, and like, y'all know who's in your town, and she has some resources to help, like, other data layers, that kind of thing. So she could work with the planning vendor, if that's the OPC, to kind of help facilitate the process. So that's someone else that you might be hearing from. And I'm around as a resource, so like any questions, feel free to call or email. You come back out, Monterey's beautiful. Really nice to come out here, so.
Long drive for you though.
That means like an hour.
Where you been?
East Hampton,
Oh.
so no, it's not bad. I feel like I talked a lot, so if any of that doesn't make sense, feel free to reach out.
No, sounds great.
And I'll follow up with the funding.
Sounds like a good opportunity.
Thank you, I'm excited for it. I think we've seen a lot of really cool pieces come out of this for other towns, and it is a lift, and I hope, the hope is that there's a benefit. The hope is that it helps kind of
Yeah.
move things forward in different ways. So thank you all for your time. Thank you, Dennis and Roger, for all your work on this so far.
Here's a really weird question.
What?
This is out there. You ready? Okay, so one of the things that the town has been thinking about with housing is there's an 11-acre lot back here. And one of the issues that it looks like there might be perks and stuff, but one of the issues is we don't have sewer, we don't have water. I feel like an innovative septic disposal system of some kind. Like, I'm not exactly sure what that would be, but something that could serve for homes, but isn't just the standard thing, something that's climate resilient. Is that is that too out there? Cause I
No,
know
I
there's issues with whether it's acceptable to the departments of health because of state regs.
Yeah, I think the state regs piece is outside of my wheelhouse,
Right,
so I think
right.
it'd be questions for your public health or DEP or kind of whoever the right people are. But I think that kind of out there thinking is part of what MVP 2.0 is for, is like, what does climate resilience look like in Monterey? And is there a way to like support, and if it's housing, if it's septic, if it's some innovative climate resilient, like, that's a really cool idea. And I don't have an answer right now, but I think it'd be worth a conversation. And if that becomes one of the priorities, like, yeah, I think that's
But you would
kind of
do,
cool out of the box.
you could work with us in terms of with the state,
Yeah,
rate.
yeah, and I think like that might be a question
Because that
for
is
my
the issue,
team.
we've looked into that, and it's real, that is where, there's a wall.
Yeah, I know, but that, the wall is gonna have to come down in the future because we're not gonna be the only people needing something like that. Especially rural communities that don't have sewer and the pump to do that is
Good idea.
huge.
Does that have a name or just like the idea of some kind of innovative? I'm just curious, I'm gonna go do
Does
some
it have a
research.
name when you were,
Fox Hill project, we.
the Fox Hill project or do
The
you mean the
septic system?
septic?
The septic system.
We looked at, New York has done some work on it, and we have some information from New York and also Germany.
What do they call it?
It's a septic, it's kind of.
Composting
It's like
toilet
a composting toilet, yeah.
Right,
I mean, there's a number of different ways you can go on it.
right.
But the state is not happy about it.
I'd be curious to make some friends at DPH and DEP and see
Go for it.
whether or not that's something you pursue through MVP. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd all be interested in seeing if we can
Do
get
something
people to
different,
think
yeah.
about something different that might work.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you all so
Great.
much, and I'll be in touch and.
Excellent, I think we're at, but
Nice,
again,
nice positive note for our select board.
Kevin West. Yes, sir, you're in the hot
Shall I
seat.
come up?
Calm down.
Oh, we should have asked her about tree resilience and stuff.
Yeah.
That could be part of the whole thing.
It could be a plan.
Work on it.
I'll be
adding
Yeah, absolutely.
Planting native plants and trees.
And things that will cope with the changes in weather
Yeah.
and insect pressure.
All kinds of stuff there, yeah.
There's a lot of talk in the forestry community and the urban forestry community about the climate services being offered by municipal canopies. And climate services include things like stormwater mitigation, air filtration, et cetera, et cetera. And there's some interesting software that actually allows municipalities, there's free software to determine the dollar value of the environmental services being offered by the municipal canopy. So it's fascinating stuff, and there's a lot,
There's so much out there.
there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there. So, thank you very much, everyone, for having me. Ken, this is the second year I've done it. Done this little report to, the select board, and hopefully 2 years makes a tradition. It's gotta be pretty brief, because there's not a lot to talk about. Also, I have a hard out at 7 o'clock, unfortunately. But I want to give you a brief, state of the trees, state of the canopy. I want to talk about cutting progress and cutting plans for the coming fiscal year. I want to touch briefly on National Grid, something that the community is always talking to me about. And then four, I want to touch on a couple of future issues, concerns, topics, just things to have in the back of your mind. So state of the trees is stabilizing. As you know, we've been chasing the emerald ash borer problem for years now. And we're catching up on it. I don't want to say we're ahead of it, but we're catching up on it. Part of the reason is that so many trees have died already and have been cut already, that more trees have been cut than are left to suffer from the emerald ash borer. Emerald ash borer continues to be ubiquitous. Every municipality in Massachusetts and New England, and in fact, the Eastern Seaboard is dealing with it. So we're based on what I'm seeing driving around, I think we may be a little bit ahead of it. I think we've done a pretty good job as the trees here. And when I say stabilizing, what I mean is that because we're catching up with it in a sense, I think we're going to be getting to a point where there are fewer trees to take down, fewer ash trees to take down, just because there are fewer left.
What's replacing the ash in the canopy?
Well, it's interesting. There are a lot of recruitment trees coming along, and I've begun this year marking some recruitment trees, saplings, self-seeded saplings. I've talked to Alan about this as well. He's really in favor of protecting well-placed seedlings, right tree, right place, under the wires, not too close to the road, but trees that are well-placed and have a good structure. I'm starting to do a little pruning actually on those select recruitment trees to make sure they have a good structure. And what I'm focusing on are red oak, which we have a lot of, and a little bit of maple in the right place. There's plenty of sugar maple around, but there are only select places where it's really well placed. In addition to that, there are some smaller trees which are really valuable and kind of overlooked, like things like American hornbeam, which has great fall color. And it's maybe a 20-foot tree, so it's safe under wires as well. And when I'm finding a good ash, I'm marking some ash to protect. And that's based on feedback from the forestry health experts at DCR, who say that we are certainly, in 200 years, going to have ash on the New England landscape, period. We will.
Really?
And the reason is that there's going to be a regeneration of ash from the trees that have survived the first round of assault. And so some of these trees some of the recruitment trees that I'm singling out to experiment with may well be resilient. And we're just gonna have to sort of see that, see how it goes.
Does it have to do with location too?
Has to do with, the emerald ash borer is everywhere. So the location doesn't seem to be an issue with survival. The ones that I would be selecting for recruitment trees are just ones that are well placed, like well spaced from other trees, they have good form, they're opposite the wires, they're well back off the road.
When you talk about the oaks and the maples and that, are you talking about plantings or are you talking
No.
about ones that are?
These are natural seedlings that are coming up, and recruitment, the natural next generation that's coming up.
And while I'm doing that, while I'm selecting recruitment trees, I'm also cutting out, sort of invasive species, as well as like badly formed trees. As Roger knows, I spent a little bit of the budget this year on some tree pruning equipment, like a pole saw, so that I can also do a little bit of a kind of early stage pruning on trees. And if we take out a little branch like this today that's reaching toward the road, that will save us in 10 years having to pay John Field or somebody else a lot of money to take down the tree when the branches this big around. So the state of the trees is stabilizing. The one thing that you should be aware of, I mentioned it last year, is that beech leaf disease is now ubiquitous in the Berkshires. It's also probably terminal for the beech trees, although that's not entirely established yet. The only upside, and it's hard to find one, but the only upside is that we don't have many beech trees along the roadway. So Tier 1 Road.
A lot of beech trees in the forest.
In the forest,
It's gonna be
there's a lot.
devastating, and
Yeah.
beech nuts are a huge food source,
Yeah.
I can't imagine what's gonna replace them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a real loss. So cutting this past year, so this is the beginning of my 4th year. When I was elected, I began to put into place a 5-year cyclical cutting program. The idea being that instead of doing a whack-a-mole, like sort of chasing the hotspots, we keep an eye out for anything that has to be immediately cared for. But we're trying to focus our attention on 20% of the roads per year. So that you go to a single stretch of road, you really trim it, you take care of it, you try to get ahead of problems, you don't just take down the tree that's dying today, you also look at the tree that's not likely to survive the next 5 years and take that down as well. And what I started doing this year, because we are getting ahead of things, is I'm also having the crews cut out some dead wood over the roads, which is something that's never really been dealt with much. The oaks, especially the red oaks, they're wonderful trees, they're very healthy trees, they're very strong trees. As they mature, they do drop branches over time. They shut off branches that are shaded out. Doesn't mean it's sick, doesn't mean it's dying, it just means that as the tree gets taller and the canopy is up here, the lower branches down here are kind of put into retirement. And so we're able to go through and start taking out some of those retirement trees as part of the cyclical cutting, which is great news. Long term, it's good for public safety, it's good for the trees, it's good for everything. So we cut River Road 23, Blue Hill, Sandusfield, some of New Marlborough Road this year. And over the cycle thus far, we've also cut Sheringham, Pixley, Our School, Corshire, Fairview, Beartown, Brett, Coopeye. I may be missing something, but we're making good progress on all of the major roads. In the year ahead, I'm going to focus on finishing New Marlborough Road, and then going to Mount Hunger Road, Swan Road, Griswold. That's probably going to soak up most of the budget this year. Expenses are going up, right? And I requested a kind of flat funded budget this year because we are kind of catching up with the problem. But the cost of the field service went up pretty substantially. So we're going to have about 10 days of cutting this year. And what I just told you, New Marlborough, Swan, Hunger Mountain, and Griswold will pretty much suck up that budget. And that leaves for fiscal year 28, Gould and Kronk. Kronk is a big subject. I think we should talk about Kronk and Chestnut Hill Road as part of a larger conversation. So let me just sort of put that in front of you and say, can we get back to it, talking with Alan as well. So I'm just gonna leave that for now, unless you have more questions. 3, National Grid. I've heard from a number of residents this year, not any one in particular I'm going to be talking about here, but several who see a tree and they want it taken down and they want to call National Grid and they want National Grid to come get it. Or they want me to call National Grid and come get it. So here's the way this works. National Grid removes trees out of their own financial self-interest. And there are 2 elements to that. One, they want to protect their infrastructure, their wires and their equipment. And 2, they are subject to regulatory penalties if there are too many outages on the circuit. So this region that we're part of has 26 towns in Berkshire County and Hamilton County. There's a new manager, Ed Sturtevant, who's a great guy. We get along great. And he's dealing with 26 towns. There are, I think, 11 circuits. And because the outages are subject to regulatory penalties, National Grid pays very close attention to where the outages are. And so they map the circuits, and the worst performing 2 circuits get all of the money for that year. Now, they have the same issue we have, which is that they have unlimited work and limited budget. Their budget is much larger than ours, but still, National Grid has, arborist, a budget for arborist services. And the past, last year, the worst 2 performing circuits were in Williamstown and North Adams, North County. Same this year. So they told me last year that that we were not going to get much attention in the current fiscal year, the just ended fiscal year. And Ed Servant, while he met with me, we spent a lot of time, we walked down New Marble Road together, we looked at every single tree that is of concern to me. He's very sympathetic. There are a couple of trees he's going to put higher on his list of priorities, but still, he says, listen, basically, the numbers say that our circuit is in pretty good condition. There are other circuits that are in really bad condition. They triage, as it were, not to pun, but they do a triage on every tree, which is to say that a tree that is over a 3-phase line is much, much, much higher priority for them than a tree over a 1-phase line. A tree that's over a line in somebody's house, not a big priority. A tree that's over, at the end of a line, that's at the end of Harmon Road, not a big priority. This is just real politics. It's just the real economics of it. And for them, if a tree comes down on a wire and the wire breaks, they can send out a repair guy to plug the wires back together. It costs them next to nothing. To send a tree crew out costs them a couple $1,000s a day. So they're just running the numbers on this stuff, and that's why we have. I was going to say virtually no, but the answer the truth may be that we have 0 leverage here. We can encourage them. I've developed a great relationship with all 4 of the guys I've worked with now. They're responsive when I ask them something. They responded to you as well, but they didn't get back to us. They didn't let us know that they sent someone out after you talked to the person whose name I forget. But they sent someone down, they generated a ticket, they sent someone down, they looked at the trees, the same trees I looked at with Ed Servant last week. And they said, okay, we see them, not that big of a deal as far as we're concerned, we'll get to them when we get to them. So, I worked out a plan with Ed, which is that I send him a detailed spreadsheet of all the trees that I think are of concern to National Grid. I send it to him and I follow up with him. I'm going to be following up with him quarterly. And if there's anything urgent comes up, I've got his text, I've got his email, and we communicate very openly. But that's the situation. We don't have much leverage. So I'm doing what I can to get National Grid to help us out. The first 2 years that I was tree warden, the circuit that National Grid was investing in was our circuit. So I got a false understanding of how that relationship works.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
And because those first 2 years, I could call up, Lance Wade or Mike Gallant and be like, oh, dude, there's like a big maple over here that died.
But it
They
really
send
works.
someone right away.
It's different, the
It's
number of
different.
outages.
We don't have any
is
outages anymore, any here.
Very
So
a
that's-
lot,
Right.
yeah, way down.
So-
In fact, we predicted that as soon as we bought a generator, that the number of outages would precipitously fall. We got it after the we had an outage that lasted 10 days.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm done with that.
So I will take it upon myself to have a very good long conversation with one of the people that has been on your case to get trees cut.
I've had a couple of really good conversations with him.
We'll get it,
Yeah.
we'll get it pulled back,
Yeah,
okay? I'll do that.
so,
That's by the way, an amazingly clear and cogent explanation of your problem and the situation. And I appreciate it.
to just very briefly touch on future issues,
Would you be willing to write something like that up for the paper, or is that?
sure, I've got a lot of writing deadlines right now, so I'm a little bit back.
Yeah, no,
on
I'm just,
writing fronts,
it's just
but-
when you
but
get a
absolutely,
chance, yeah, it might be a nice
It's
thing
a
to
good
put in there, and let people know, because I think everybody's under the misconception that all you do is call National Grid and they'll come down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes back to a couple of years when they were great.
That's right.
I got firewood for about 3 years.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
So just FYI, Alan and I get along like a house on fire. I think he's terrific.
He's good.
We have a really good line of communication. We were driving around together the other day, looking at things. We see problems and opportunities and solutions in very parallel ways. He also is, he's like a very reasonable guy. And it seems to me that that's the standard that we're going for, is reasonableness. When is it reasonable for National Grid to do something, for the town to do something, for, the tree warden to ask the highway department to do something, for the highway department to call in the tree warden, like, when is it reasonable to do these things? And I think if we're reasonable and collegial, I think we get a lot more done. And Alan is very much of that spirit, and it's a pleasure to see him and work with him on trees. Let's see, I've talked about price increase, right? Prices, the cost of tree service is gonna continue to go up, arborist services will continue to go up. It's just a reality, along with everything else. I've talked about recruitment trees and how I'm, in addition to doing some planting, I have a kind of, I'm not gonna go into it, but I have a kind of like planting strategy around restoration, restoration, scenery, and biodiversity. And, I have some places where I want to be planting over the next, number of years. If the good voters of Monterey see fit to return me to office, the tree thing is a long-term commitment. And I would love to, at the least, I would love to commit to going through 2 cutting cycles, so that's 10 years, which I feel like would put us in a really great spot. And also would allow us to have a lot of sort of, young trees, recruitment trees identified, coming up naturally. And then in special places, I think it's worthwhile for us to continue as a town to plant some trees as replacement trees, especially around the spirit of restoring trees that have been lost. And some of the old, roadside maples and roadside oaks that have just aged out, there's nothing wrong with them, they're just old trees. And it's our responsibility, I believe, to plant new trees for the next 50 years, next 100 years.
Or 200.
Or 200.
And some of those trees were pretty old.
So the last thing that I'll flag for the year ahead, I flagged it last year as well, which is that we need policies and practices in written form. And I would love to engage a tree committee of citizens, even an informal ad hoc committee to put some of that together. I regret that I didn't make more progress on it last year. I've got a lot of stuff that I've done independently, and I've got a lot of things that I've started to put into place independently, just for my own practices. There's also a very interested resident who has gone out and pulled together, he's an attorney, gone out and pulled together tree bylaws from a lot of other towns, comparable small towns. And he has drafted some proposed language for for discussion around a potential future tree bylaw. I've even marked it up and sent it back to him, but I just haven't pushed on that this year. My intention is to, have a conversation with him, and so that we can have something then to share with a larger group of people, town council, the present body, town council, citizens, highway department, et cetera. Because we really do want to get a lot of input and feedback on that. So it's on my list, if I had more sort of time to focus on that, I would, but it seems to me that taking care of the tree cutting and tree surveying and all of that stuff is really what is the top priority. So that gets my time. So any questions?
Aren't you doing kind of an amazing job?
Thumbs up.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dan, great. Thank
Good
you.
job.
All right,
Good work.
go work on
Thank you.
you. Thank you.
Sorry to keep you late. Night.
That was good, wow.
I
That was
know, right? The
excellent,
the sheer amount of work involved in all that, like recruiting new trees, like all of it.
It's sometimes-
He's just getting into it.
I know, he really loves it.
And he wasn't into it. I mean, he took it.
He's learned a shocking amount,
Yeah.
like he's clearly a very bright and dedicated guy.
It's sometimes nice to know why the bureaucracy is not working how you want it to work. It's nice to hear him say, this is why when you call National Grid, we're not gonna do anything for you.
And-
It gives you a sense of peace.
And it makes a lot of sense what you said, that's the thing, like, it's very clear that they have, you know, they've mapped out the different zones, they know which ones are failing and which ones they have to fix,
The
and.
difference is they're a business and,
Right,
they're working on slightly different, but it's good, it's good.
Mickey Jervis, you have your hand up?
I just wanted to mention, I had one of the storms last week, excuse me, tree went down, my power went out. I immediately called National Grid, that was like 11:15 at night. 10 minutes of 2, I hear the truck come up the road,
That's pretty good.
and they went up past my house and came back down again, and a tree had gone down by my lower driveway. It wasn't one, now I have John Field scheduled to do some tree work, it wasn't one of those.
Of course not.
So it came down from way in the woods, took out the pole. They did a decent job of getting the road clear, the power was back on very quickly. But now when John comes to do the other work, I've got him finishing that tree, so.
Yeah.
And then I called, because the road was not totally clear, I was kind of a little concerned about it. So I put a call into the town shed, and before it could have been answered, Sheldon happened to be coming down the road, and he stopped and he cleaned it up beautifully.
There's 11 things work like they're supposed to.
Really, I mean, it's really, really nice, and he said, oh, no problem, we'll take care of this, and like, wow, great.
It's also nice to hear about, I'm talking about Alan.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
nice.
The benefit, Mickey, is everyone knows you're gonna be here telling your experience at the select board meeting, so they're right on.
So I will mention when people are bad, and I'll mention when they're nice, so.
All right, great.
That's a common problem.
So next up, I think we are gonna limit this discussion to no more than 15 minutes. So if it's 7:20 and we're still gone, we're just gonna limit it. But Ken, you brought up, you wanted to discuss public safety, like fire department and an ambulance and big picture, where we're going from here, where we are.
Yeah, because I'm a little confused about the direction we're heading in. And I wanted more clarity on where the select board is, because I don't get a sense that the select board is driving this train. I get a sense that the fire department is driving the train. And I'm trying to figure out what role the select board is playing. And especially going forward, and especially I can understand what the idea is around the fire department. But I'm really at a loss in terms of the ambulance. In terms of what's being proposed. And I'm having a little trouble. I've gone over a lot of the statistics from here, and I've talked to Southern Berkshire, and I've talked to Monterey, to Great Barrington, I've talked to New Marlboro in terms of what's going on in their towns around both fire and ambulance and the difficulties. And I think that what I'd like to do is try to get to a point that we can have a rational discussion about what the future looks like. A little about how we got here, but also moving ahead, where we see ourselves going as a community. Because I'm a little concerned. I mean, one of the reasons I got involved with this was because of the number of people that contacted me about, they were concerned about what was going on with the taxes going up dramatically, and then I'm concerned that we're not focused. Our focus should be on looking at the needs of the community along with the needs of the residents of the community in terms of safety, and the needs of the community in terms of finances, and how those two meld together, and how we can move forward as a community, and to really bring ourselves together, because I feel there's I sense a real split in the community, and I felt that at the town meeting. And it's the first time I really felt that in terms of both of how people were viewing the fire department. And I felt that, it didn't feel good. And I feel somehow we have to pull this together and get it back together. and reassert ourselves in terms of being the select board. And our responsibility in this is to provide guidance and to provide, I feel like there's a little feeling of out of control in this, in
Well,
terms of the fire department.
so, couple things, one is, no matter how many ethics obligations I can clear up on the fire department, the ambulance, my hands are tied because my relative works at Southern Berkshire Ambulance. But that said, I think in general, the select board has been trying to delegate responsibility to the town administrator. When I got on the board, probably when you were on the board, we used to get, the town, this employee wants to go on vacation, select board's gotta approve it. These employees wanna carry over vacation, select board's gotta approve it. This one wants to change office hours. And found herself kind of bogged down in the minutia of the employees and departments. So we delegate a lot to the town administrator and the department heads, I think. That said, I think this is a different situation because we're growing a program to look something very different from what it was. So it is probably rightfully requires a little more analysis and review and thoughtfulness on the board's part than a department functioning as it has for decades, more or less. So one option that's been brought up, and I'm not sure if it gets the select board more involved or less involved, and if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it got brought up at town meeting and a little bit after, was creating some kind of a committee. When you create a committee, mission and membership are absolutely critical because that can totally dictate what that group looks like and what direction it's headed in. So I'm just gonna put that out there as something that was brought up at town meeting and by other residents who emailed to create some kind of Jeff Zimmerman was on the finance committee for 3 years and probably mentioned it multiple times a year, that we should have kind of a long-range planning committee. I think the big difficulty is the people in these seats change. So
And the people in those seats would also change.
and finance committee, the people in those seats would also change, but we could make, 5-year terms, we could appoint people that we know are in it for the long haul to
Can't
some
appoint
degree.
them for 5 years, we can elect them for 5 years.
Potentially, yeah, I see what you're saying. So all that said, maybe it's worth, in response to the concerns that you're raising, maybe we should revisit committee, and maybe that's not part of the equation at all.
I think the selection of the committee would be extremely important, because what we don't want is a committee that's just a bunch of people that are gonna be angry and like not solve problems but create them. That would not be positive. Having people there that are committed to creating a good solution is a whole nother thing. So the only thing I wanna start by saying is that I absolutely cannot agree that the fire department is running the narrative. I think anyone who knows me for the last 20 years I've lived in this town knows that I'm a person who takes data very seriously. I do not allow someone else's narrative to dictate what I think. I do independent research, and I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on this, Ken. Right? It wasn't like 3 meetings. It was endless hours of looking at data, reading about what's happening elsewhere, including the state and the country as well as the county. Talking to a lot of people, going to endless meetings with other departments, as well as listening to our own people who do it. And after that, we had, I don't know how many meetings with the finance committee. We had a bunch of special meetings where it was Frank and I and fire department personnel, and in one case, a chief from another department and the finance committee, going over and over conversations about different options and what the situation was and what the overall situation was in southern Berkshire County. And what the prognosis was for volunteerism, like hours and hours of this conversation. Do I think that the people that do it the most have a knowledge base that's important to listen to? Yes. Did I independently verify the kinds of things they were saying? Yes, sir, I did, right? So, like, after doing that much work, it's a little bit upsetting to, and presenting it in a series of meetings and in documents to the people of the town, convincingly enough that they supported it, it's a little upsetting to hear, well, we're not running the narrative. Now, I feel this is like a big case of buyer's remorse, and that doesn't mean it's not worth reviewing, right? I'm not gonna say that I don't feel it's a done deal, right? Like, things are changing, this landscape is evolving, not as fast as we'd like maybe. And the ambulance situation, there isn't a solution yet. There isn't, right? Because that whole series of meetings, I don't know what they're gonna come out with, but I sort of felt like it fell apart because nobody would, looking at the ambulance for South County.
Oh, okay. The Collins Center?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what they end up coming forward with, but just those last couple of meetings, part of the reason it fell apart is that there weren't any really good options on the table. So that there wasn't real consensus and buy-in for, oh my God, that's a solution, right? There was more like, oh God, there's no solution. So that in part, what you're getting on that is real, that no one has really come up with a solution. It's clear why towns like New Marlboro and Otis chose to invest in ambulance and Sandusfield rather than fire, because you can get partial reimbursement. Most of them still run at a deficit, but it's less of a deficit, right? Because you're billing people for it. What that means for us, I think that's still on the table. I know that, the chiefs of Egremont and Monterey and Barrington have been meeting. I guess there's a bunch of people on vacation at the moment. Because, everyone is concerned about this, right? Otis has done a lot with the ambulance, but they're having trouble with recruiting fire. Like, it's not a one and done by any means. This is still very much ongoing. I think that, we know that for our town for years, it's been about 50-50 medical versus fire calls. We are outside, never mind the 4-minute window, we're outside the 12-minute window for the ambulance. More of our town could be serviced under the 12-minute mark by Otis than by Great Barrington, Southern Berkshire. I think, given the average age is creeping up, it was 65.4 a couple years ago, it's probably higher now. We've got under 250 people between the ages of 25 and 65. Might be 20 and 65, to check that. That's a very small volunteer pool. The average in the US is 1 per 100 for a fire department. That, obviously, there's always people above and below the average, but. So I think that, we can have, I'm all for conversations. I think it would be great, and if somebody can come up with how the South County doesn't have a great history of actively working together for these solutions. The towns all seem to have trouble doing that. At least that's what I hear about lots of things, right? We've all got our own police forces, we've all got our own fire departments, we're all got our own highway equipment, we've all got our own, and there's lots of reasons for those things, right? And logistically, it's difficult.
It also does depend on who you talk to and what studies you look at, because there are examples of cooperation, and 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, is that long ago? like where we are now. And I think everything's gotta be on the table in a rapidly
Yeah.
developing
I agree, I'm hopeful
field
for that
with
reason.
no clear answer.
Mhm.
But I think what we can't do to some degree, not to downplay any of the work that you have done over the last year and a half, 2 years, is we can't get to like February, to one of the last budget meetings and then be like, all right, now is the time to talk about this,
I would
this
agree.
program. So
I think it's
That's
good,
that's the whole
Right.
reason I'm bringing this up
and
now.
I think that if.
I don't know if that happens in this meeting on Tuesday evenings. I don't know if we create a separate committee. Obviously, very thoughtful as to who's part of it. I think it needs to be a well-balanced committee that is solution-oriented and knowledgeable, but also critical thinking and fiscally responsible. So I think it has to be balanced if we do something like that. You know, a lot of people around town meeting time, we're getting emails from citizens
I
about
gotcha.
really being in favor of that. I'm not saying we have to go that route. We've had some committees that have blown me away with how,
Yeah, we really
how
have.
good they've been, and then other times, you know, you don't have the right mission, you don't have the right membership, and it doesn't get off the ground, but.
And it's very possible that the right people could help facilitate a solution, if only because nobody has enough people and enough bandwidth, to use the word that was going around earlier, to, how do we foster these conversations between towns, right? And some one group is like, well, the fire departments have to be on board first, and the other group's like, well, the select board's got, the finance committee. All these things are true, but
I think-
figuring out how to come up with an idea that, and get other towns actively involved in a also a positive frame for how are we gonna manage this problem, because it's a bigger problem than just us. And
Get
our
rid of
part is
town lines.
real, pardon?
Get rid of town lines. I mean, that's,
Yeah,
I think in my conversations with both New Marlboro and Southern Berkshire ambulance, and then our town here,
who are you talking to in New Marlboro? I'm just curious.
Chuck,
Chuck, okay, cool.
and Mark, the idea of how you can expand. I mean, to me, I look at what Southern Berkshire has done. And they've got the right people, they've got the paramedics rather than just EMTs. They're able to provide the service, they have the equipment, they have the whole thing set up, and they're providing service, an excellent service to all the towns that they're providing service for. The question is whether they can expand beyond where they are now. They feel they can, if there's support from the towns and how that all works in. You look at New Marlboro's budget for ambulance is way beyond what they originally thought that they would be paying. And it's just going up. And they can't provide the service. They don't provide the service because Southern Berkshire is out there all the time, picking up. So how you bring these towns together is that the cost is raising, and so maybe, that's one thing. And then also in terms of providing a better quality of service than what you're getting now. And I think that's what Southern Berkshire does. And that to me is the whole thing with Otis is really questionable because, I see what they're trying to do. I see they're trying to get the time down in terms of response time. But if you don't have the people on the ambulance to cover whatever's going on at the site you're coming to and you have to call for extra help, I mean, there's a disconnect here. And I think that the idea of trying to, and plus we're paying $150,000 a year for Southern Berkshire to come in. So why are we then trying to get Otis to pick up passengers here?
For a couple of different reasons. Like, there's a bunch of reasons to answer that question, but if we reach time, yeah.
Yep, that's good.
As long as we don't have to abide by the time strictly, it's only self-imposed.
No,
Yeah,
I think it makes sense because this is an ongoing discussion and we could do this for another
But it's-
hour, but
yeah.
let's take.
It's easy, and it's easy to go down one rabbit hole.
And it's a nice shot, and we're not yelling at each other, so.
No, definitely. And you're not asking bad questions.
So, the town of Monterey employee manual.
So I
And
don't.
did Mari email you?
She hasn't yet. I talked with her for.
What did she find?
I don't know, she asked me if we were still taking comments, and I said, I wish we weren't, but we are.
She said she was gonna write something up in email,
Okay.
but I haven't seen it yet.
I'd love to. see
That was at like 5:30 or something.
Okay.
Or 5 o'clock, I ran into her, and she was mentioning something about a comment she had specific to holidays. So that she was gonna write something, an email about.
Oh, no.
Ban holidays and Monterey.
Well, let's pretend she didn't talk to you, let's move on.
I did, by the way, email Donna as well about the two questions we posed to Collins. So I sent you Maria Cardy from Collins's answer, and I also reached out to Donna. Would you like me to read her answer or? So, she said on the first question was what to do about paying out paid time off for part-time employees.
Why is this so hard?
I don't know.
No, I know what.
Susan, so I think that this might be part of a conversation. Do you offer paid vacation to part-time employees? Well, we're offering paid time off, which is both vacation and sick time, it's
Yeah.
whatever they choose, right? The law only requires that an employer pay out unused and accrued vacation upon separation from employment, not other types of paid leave, regardless whether the employee is part of full-time. I do not recommend paying out unused PTO that is not vacation leave if you only pay out unused vacation for full-time employees. Whether you pay out any unused PTO depends on if you allow employees to carry over unused vacation or PTO across fiscal years. If you allow carryover, it becomes an expensive payout quickly if you allow employees to carry over unused days. Make sure to specify what the cap is for how many can be carried over and whether they must be used within a specified amount of time, such as in the next fiscal year. So we are setting a cap. I still feel like if we are not obligated to pay out PTO. That's basically the way the law is structured and what they're saying. We pay out unused vacation, we don't allow infinite carryover for that either. For full-time employees, I would say I'd go for 50% of unused PTO hours because we're setting a reasonably low cap, so it's not a big cost. I mean, if it's the max is, even if it was a max of 50, you'd be paying for at most 25 hours. So.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, I can't do this one because.
Right, okay. So that was my thought.
So I think that's a reasonable solution to the problem.
Vicky?
Don't look over there. Hey,
Sorry.
He's not looking at me.
Don't look over there.
Right, I wanna know what
Don't
he's gonna
look
say.
over there.
So, actually, had a very busy week, and I was looking this over when I pulled in here early this evening, I was a few minutes early. And I had some other just thoughts, and I would like some time to process them more, and then I have to review them with Mark, so that he gets the same thing. But one question I have is, so when you have vacation time, you can carry over 40 hours full-time. In other words, they can get 3 weeks after 3 years, they get 3 weeks. And so they could take a 2-week vacation and carry over 1 week. And that accumulates.
It still caps out.
Yeah,
So let's say you carried over 10 hours, right? Let's say year 1 to year 2, you carried over 10 hours. You can accumulate it again, but you still can't carry over anymore to the next.
No, but you can carry over, but can you carry over and accumulate? Carry over is one thing, accumulate is another.
Right, so if you
So
carried
throughout
over
the year-
10, and let's say you earned 1 a week, I just made that
Yeah,
number
yeah,
up for clarity. You carried over 10, after the first week, you now have 11.
Right,
But
And for full-time employees, what's our cap?
Work 40 hours.
40 hours for
40
vacation.
hours for vacation?
That's-
Oh, to roll
that's
over.
the carryover, but that's not the
So-
accumulation.
So Mickey,
With the accumulation.
anything that you have in your vacation bank as a full-time employee above 40 at the change of fiscal year, gone. And then that 40 stays there, but the end of the next fiscal year,
Gone again.
it's gone again.
So in other words, if you have, let's say you're a regular 40-hour week employee who's entitled, because you've been here for a few years, to 3 weeks of vacation, right?
Mhm.
That's 120 hours.
Mhm.
If you don't take any vacation, you just lost 80 hours of
Yes,
vacation
I'm
at the end of
not,
the year.
I'm not saying they're doing that, right?
But you would have carried over 40. And you can build it up again, but again, gonna get knocked back to max of 40 if it's not used.
So,
We're trying
so
to-
the,
the reason for that is to encourage you to take your vacation.
yeah, I know, but, sometimes people, 2 week vacation is plenty, but you can, carry over 40 hours. And then it says employees leaving the town will be compensated for unused accrued vacation hours, which it led me to believe that it was growing, but in other words, so if I carried over the 40 hours, because I only took a 2 week vacation, I can carry over the 40. The next year I can't have 80 hours because I did the same thing,
No, they class at 40.
it collapsed, okay, I don't think that's
So-
exactly.
Accrued means, so if
Example.
you carried over
Can
40,
you be an
and you work for a
example in the
month,
book?
right? No, and you worked
It's
for a
clear.
month, and you were accumulating, let's say, another 5. At the end of that month,
I don't
you
know
would
what-
have 45 that we paid you out for.
So on
So
the,
it's still accruing because you carry over 40, but you continue to accrue it.
right, so
as
that
you
next year you could actually take 4 weeks vacation instead of the 3.
Theoretically.
Correct.
Theoretically.
Yes.
But then you'd have 0, right?
It says the amount given, it doesn't say it's an accrued, well, anyway, because maybe I just skipped that part because there's too much writing. So I would like,
If you wanna think through it, go for it.
I
If
would
you
like,
still comment after we approve it, we can deal with them then too.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I would like to see, first of all, I did say I also have the 24-hour rule, I was using that.
Okay.
But, I would like to see it in writing, how it's gonna look, and I do wanna be able to present it.
do you not have it in writing already?
No, when you were
mean-
Well, the
talking about
PTO, the
The
PTO thing.
PTO, no, when you were talking about the payback and stuff, I
Right,
I
right,
wanted to see that in writing before. Because I do have to take it to the boss who was not talking to, I didn't even try to talk to him this past couple of weeks. He was a little bit busy.
So I actually wrote some language for the PTO, which basically it's modeled on the language we have for the full-time employees, and it says, employees leaving employment with the town will be compensated for 50% of unused paid time off hours accrued. What it says for the full-time is for all unused vacation hours accrued, so.
Perfect.
You just print it out somewhere on the table, okay?
All right, so going back to the second topic, she says, I discussed this problem with Justin, Susan, and in general, I agree with the Collins Center. It is not the romantic relationship alone that is the problem. The problem is if one of the partners is having sex while on duty such that they are not, quote, response ready if a fire call comes in. You wanna make sure that the general policies make it clear that all firefighters are ready to respond immediately to emergencies while on shift. If 2 members of the department are engaged romantically solely on their own time, the concerns to be alert to are if one is getting favorable treatment as a result of the other's position of authority, which is sort of covered on.
But she doesn't speak at all about the relationship between a supervisor and a staff person. I mean,
But that's already covered in all of
all
the,
of our stuff.
yeah, it's covered in the, what we call it, the sexual harassment
piece and all
section.
that, yeah.
That's what that's for, right? It's
So-
about relationships between employees that are,
So what does the board think we should be doing?
basically the consensus seems to be, we've already covered it. I think the only thing we might wanna do is basically have some type of statement, a fire department policy saying something to the effect of.
The being ready, but I also think it just if it's something that we could basically prohibit, it might, if we're allowed to legally, and we want to,
Mhm.
it might just make for less potential
Absolutely.
issues.
So it is the policy of the fire department that visitors are not allowed in staff sleeping quarters unless part of an organized tour of the facilities. There are to be no overnight guests in the sleeping quarters, including family members. There should be no conduct that could embarrass the department or interfere with an employee's ability to be ready for calls.
So
Is that
when,
something you wrote up?
That is something I wrote up on the basis of what Collins and Yana said.
yeah, well, that's perfect. So in that case, so since we haven't written that up yet, it's not applicable to this situation. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's what I just drafted to deal with this.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So we could put that in the policy somewhere.
Right, we could put it in the employee manual, or we could have it as a standalone policy, or say, fire department, please see this, or both. I mean, we can have it in this, and we can have it at the fire department.
So what do we do now in terms of the individual involved, the two individuals involved?
I mean, I don't think it would become apparent to us unless there was an issue. Are you aware of a problem that has occurred?
Oh, shit.
Okay, that, we should maybe bring it up with the town administrator outside of a public meeting. What I would say is that, I'm not aware of anything that has happened along these lines, but I would say we would need to have a conversation. If we are creating a fire department policy, we should probably make sure that we run it by the chief of the fire department. Make sure he's okay with the wording, make sure it gets appropriately distributed to fire department staff, as well as included in the new manual we're creating.
I think you should probably talk to town council kind of if you have any questions.
I think so. That's good.
Does what I outlined make sense to you? Okay.
Were there, we've been having sort of like ongoing conversations, and I just wanna make sure that things that we've talked about and have been like, oh yeah, that's a great idea to put in this, where we've noted all those, cause I think there was something about bereavement too, right?
Yeah,
Is there-
I made it, so I have the Word version.
Yeah.
And I have review on, and I've been making
Okay.
comments on that, because I can't change the PDF.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Okay, good. Cause at some point we'll just, cause I can probably put it together, recreate it with the new verbiage you wanna put in, that the board wants to put in.
Right.
What's the timeline on approving, like, a couple weeks? Will we meet again in a couple weeks, or are we ready to approve the handbook?
I mean, I've been over and over at this point, I'm only.
If there's a
looking at things that
If
people
there's a
tell me to look
if
at.
there's like, if there's additional, sorry, Mickey.
Mhm.
If there's going to be additional questions and concerns, but if we don't have an approved employee handbook, we can't amend it. And it leaves us in a complete state of flux, so don't be surprised if we're approving it soon. And then issues, and we come back and amend it and get an updated version. But if we don't have something approved, we've lived in a state of limbo for very long.
So I would move that we approve the employee handbook at our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, not the one coming up.
I'll second the motion, we'll call a vote.
Yes.
Yes, that's unanimous vote, we will approve the employee handbook at our next select board meeting in 2 weeks. Or the next meeting meeting,
Which would be 7/21.
correct. And I don't think we had anything from anyone else on the employee handbook at this time.
Nothing, as far as I would say, we're probably gonna get something from Mari.
Very
Moving on
curious what she's gonna find.
to town administrator updates.
I don't have it.
Okay,
So the paving's all good on Sentinel Road, like when are
They're
they coming to repair it?
They're coming on Friday to repair it,
Okay.
repair
yes. Yeah, there was a grade issue between.
Yeah.
whether
There's a bump.
There's a
There's a dip.
it.
Quite the
I drove it,
Which direction?
coming from Sandusfield toward Monterey.
You were probably driving the speed limit.
Go 5 miles over.
What's the big deal?
Go like 4, catch some air.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, so there's a great difference, so where it comes, I guess you come north
Caught me.
from Sanders Field, it's a little different grade, it's like this.
I was driving very slowly, looking at the work.
Yeah.
And it's, you don't really notice it, but think about it, like, when, after you do it, or turn around and go look at it, the other, think about the plow coming out. Like, my first concern was that the plow's gonna hit that going south. And somebody's gonna, like, yeah.
So yeah, it's Friday they have to take care of that.
Did it settle, or that's just how it started?
I think that's how it started, I think there was something, that the grading wasn't, that they either didn't grade from the pavement piece, or the paving piece, or the road underneath it wasn't exactly right, so I think it was the paving piece didn't grade.
My
So they're coming
theory
back.
is that it's at where they stopped with the old paving. And I think when they graded it to that, they didn't really allow, so they left it much and they had to kind of,
They were rushing.
oh.
They were just rushing.
Yeah, they were just rushing and they just went
But
like,
they're coming,
oh,
they are
and they
coming
tried to
back.
fix it. But it, like, they made a smooth line, it looks okay, but if you drive it at speed, it's. That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
Oh, can I
Go.
Unanticipated business.
We, Tom Mency and I met with Berkshire Design Group over at the Lombardi Park last week, when it was really. Did a walk around with them, and then they took the information that we were giving them, and they came back with a nice proposal with an understanding of the beginning steps of getting this going. Tom is going to present the proposal to his board, to his group on next week. And then he'll come back in here, I'm letting him do it, because he'll come back in here and show us what's going on. I mean, it's very positive,
To the Lombardi group or to the parks?
to us,
To Lombardo.
To the Lombardi. To the
Lombardi.
Lombardi group, and then to us.
Question, do you have that proposal on email?
Yeah.
Okay, can we just get it over to town council and see if it's the type of thing where we fall with procurement?
Well, I was actually gonna talk to you. Yes,
Only because I don't wanna get to our next meeting and Tom comes with it and we say, okay, it looks great, but we need to double check the procurement.
I don't think it falls in the procurement because of it's not the whole gamut, it's the beginning steps that we need to take in terms of laying out.
Is there an amount?
Surveys. Amount of about 7,500,
Oh, yeah,
which is under the 10,000, so, yeah.
It's the best business practice.
That doesn't include any billing from the Conservation Commission or anything, but that's, they see that at a later stage rather than this stage, so it's good.
Nice. That's good news.
A little bit of housekeeping, but the green communities letters, so Donna wrote one for town council. And I think that one had Frank's name on it, so
Yeah,
do you ever
I'll redo that.
redo it? And then also the vehicle inventory.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Did Donna just send that?
No.
Oh, from before?
It was part of one of the letters, was we need to do a vehicle inventory.
Yeah.
And that one is about 5 years old, so about half the vehicles are wrong. So I don't know if it makes more sense for you to do it, or just to ask Brian, Alan, and Sean just for updated.
That's what I would do. We had some, I know all these letters are dated, one letter is dated from that meeting, we'll get another letter dated. But what's our time frame on that is like next calendar year, right? Isn't that what it is with that?
The end of this calendar year, but the goal, as I understand it, is to submit ASAP, so that we
This is
don't,
for insurance?
No,
for green communities.
Yeah, okay.
But also, while you're at it, when you get this nice list of the inventory of vehicles, you should probably shoot it right over to the insurance company and make sure that it's up to speed with them, because I've sat in on those annual insurance meetings and they're not usually accurate.
But as long as we're getting an up-to-date list, let's use it to max. By the way, did you have any, sorry I didn't have the 6-month breakdown, I don't think I ever asked for it before. So
I
I'm
didn't have any crazy questions, I was just wondering, what it was. That's
I
all.
would have loved to be able to compare directly, so I had already gone to look for it, and then I just looked a little harder. So I sent you guys, I got the first 6-month call numbers from the fire department.
Oh,
It's on your,
okay.
it's on your town email. It's,
Do you not
it's
have
a-
access to your phone?
Oh, I got a problem with my computer, and I have an Apple.
What about your phone? Do you do email on your phone?
Yeah.
Do it on your phone,
But it's Gmail. It's not, this is,
the town email.
the town email is.
You could get it.
Yeah.
You get it?
I got it, so on my phone here, it looks blue, like a blue envelope,
Oh, okay.
and it works pretty well.
Oh, okay. I'll look.
Yeah,
I'll see if you-
and when you send emails, it says sent from my iPhone,
Okay.
or Outlook on iOS.
I didn't wanna text you the pictures, cause I wasn't sure if that was the thing, anyway. It's just the first 6 months, and Justin asked if I had comparative figures for the other years, but of course I have calendar year numbers for all the other years, so I didn't have the same, cause I never asked for the first 6 months only, right?
So you can take your time, take an hour and break it all down.
Well, I can't,
No,
actually,
no.
because I was given cumulative numbers, so I can't, I could break it down for 2024, I had the individual months, but I didn't for 2025, I only had the overall number. But, I thought it was particularly interesting, there it is, that, looking at these numbers, the aid given and received is almost equal. We went to aid 85 times, and this is all aid, and we received fire aid 42 times and EMS aid 39 times. So, like, they're different by 2. Which I was pleased to see, that we're getting that much response from other towns to our need. So I think that's important.
I know some of this has been done, but just to help the whole conversation and clarity, because I know there's been a lot of confusion and questions about what's auto aid and what's mutual aid. I don't know if there's something written, I think some of the stuff that you've written has included kind of like, just like definitions, like, okay, mutual aid, and this is what that would look like, and auto aid, and this is what that looks like.
I can try writing up a
Because when you look at those numbers,
hard to
even as
break down
someone who
what-
has had some involvement,
Yep.
that doesn't, what tells you a lot is like 5 mutual aid, okay, so there were like 5, like I can picture mutual aid in my mind, and I think so, I don't know if the town website should be posted on the town website or the Monterey News, but sometimes those definitions of just getting everyone on the same page about the
What those are,
terms
right.
can eliminate some of the questions, because it's confusing even as someone who's been involved, and then people go, you know, the numbers are different. Well, it's complicated, it's very complicated.
And then it's even harder because, for example, when you're counting mutual aid, do you count, so if we're receiving aid, if 2 different towns come to a call, is that mutual aid received once or twice? Like, if it's the same call. Because that actually happens, right, where multiple towns show up to a call. Is that you received aid once for that call, or that, like, how do you count that? You can make an argument for each one, right? So, you know, and there's a breakout in the thing, there's a breakout of the different towns. So the auto aid is only applies to Otis, as you probably know. Egremont responded here once, Barrington 9 times, Lee 5 times, New Marlboro 4 times, other 1, Sandusville 1, I don't know what NA is, but that was also 1, I'm not sure who NA was. Except there's a slash, that's why I don't, it's not applicable one, I don't know.
Vigilant.
So, and then he actually broke out, Otis, the auto aid, into EMS and fire, and then also further to day and night in each category. So,
Great,
yeah, but
great.
yeah, so, Otis was 22, EMS is 22 during the day, 13 at night, and fire was 18 during the day and 9 at night.
That's the kind of information that makes it a little easier to begin to get your head around the whole thing.
It is.
I also want to say that I did not mean to give you the sense that I did not appreciate the work you've done on this, because I know what you've done on this and the amount of work. I was speaking in terms of where I was at and where I've heard the residents at, in terms of trying to get just what Justin just said, getting their heads around all this information and how we got to this situation, because we never signed up for this, yet they did. And so you hear that a lot, and so, it's just, so I do appreciate
And
what you've done, and I'm not.
It's really hard too to
Is
figure
that
out
on
the
record?
balance.
Is that on the record? Yeah, okay.
It's really hard to figure out the balance of like too much information and too little. Like, if you're trying to
Tell me about it.
simplify complicated things,
But it got
you
really-
leave out detail,
But
and
it
then
got
when you put it in,
confused, yeah.
everyone gets confused. And you're like, no matter which thing you pick, you go wrong
But
on something.
I think we're finally getting to the point where we're all on the same page with the information that we're dealing with, and that's gonna be really helpful.
I hope that's true, I'm not sure it is, because every time I think that I
That was
got.
a prayer. That was-
Yeah, really, every time I think that I've got that under control, something else happens. And by the way, at one point, somebody was, I don't know if it was you or Roger, but somebody raised the question of why it's 5:30 AM to 5:30 PM. There's a little explanation for it, it's long and complicated, there's also a bunch of data to back it up. But that's a whole conversation all by itself.
Wasn't me, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, it was Roger,
Must be time.
pardon?
I'm starting to.
Start time, yeah, start.
Yes, start time and time, why you have it, and why you don't drop the number of hours, it's insanity. Because there are fewer calls at night, but there are still a lot of calls, and you could cut out 3 hours. If you look at the charts of when there's hardly any calls, but how is that gonna help? It's not gonna help in any way, so, yeah.
I move we adjourn.
No minutes, yeah. Public comments, a motion to adjourn supersedes. Motion to adjourn supersedes, my apologies. We'll vote to adjourn,
Yes.
Yes.
yes, so that's unanimous vote to adjourn at 7:51.
5 minutes early, guys. We're on it.
9,
Pardon?
that clock's off.
7:51.
Oh, 9.